All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for showing up this morning to officially welcome back Kelly Kroskoff as President of Basketball Business Operations.
No one saw this coming. The Indiana Fever president, the person leading the entire organization, finally spoke openly about what had been left unsaid. Her comments immediately caught people's attention and sent shockwaves through the basketball community. For the first time, the truth about the franchise, the politics, the pressure, the locker room atmosphere, and the challenge of building both a championship team and a lasting brand came into the open. Once you hear the full story, everything you thought you knew about Caitlin Clark's situation in Indiana changes. But to understand it all, we have to go back to where it began. Before Caitlin Clark ever put on a Hoosier uniform, Indiana was one of the least recognized teams in professional basketball. They won 6 games in 2021, 5 in 2022, and 13 in 2023. For nearly a decade, they had become an afterthought. There was no spotlight, no excitement, and hardly any fans. Cameras rarely showed up. The seats stayed empty. That was simply the reality of the Fever at the time. A proud franchise had been left behind. Yet even with all their efforts, no one in the front office could have predicted what was about to happen. The moment the first overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft walked through the door, everything changed. Caitlin Clark didn't just transform the Fever, she changed the entire league. Every arena she played in sold out. A media frenzy, honestly, had never been seen before in women's basketball. Television ratings reached record levels, and jerseys were selling faster than ever. In the middle of all that excitement, the organization faced an important decision. Would they simply follow the wave, or would they try to shape it in a different direction? The Fever needed someone in charge who truly understood what they had. And that's where this story becomes even more interesting. They had a once-in-a-generation athlete who was changing women's sports almost by herself. Then the front office made a move that surprised many people. Kelly Kroskoff was named the team's new president of business operations and basketball. On paper, the decision seemed logical. Kroskoff had helped establish the Fever, was part of the organization that won the 2012 championship, and knew the franchise better than almost anyone. She was welcomed with all the excitement people expected. But during her very first press conference, something she said hinted at issues that many people ignored at the time. Months later, those words would return and create major controversy because the warning signs had been there from the beginning, even if they were easy to miss. Almost nobody noticed them. Then everything started to unravel. By July of 2025, Caitlin Clark's injury-related absences had become a serious concern for the Fever. A lingering groin injury had limited her for weeks, and she had appeared in only 11 games that season. Fans were growing frustrated. The team was fighting to secure a playoff spot. The pressure kept building. Then, on the very same day that footage from Kelly Kroskoff's first press conference unexpectedly resurfaced on social media, the internet rediscovered a speech from October 2024 that almost everyone had overlooked. Looking straight into the cameras, Kroskoff said during the press conference, "This is about the Indiana Fever. Yes, Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston are our cornerstone players, and we are committed to helping them continue to grow. But I want this team to become a national leader and a lasting brand like Apple." That single comparison was all it took. At first, very few people paid attention to those words. But within hours, the clip spread across social media and quickly went viral. Many fans saw it as a warning. The Fever front office had never experienced this kind of backlash before. Supporters weren't just disappointed. They were organized, vocal, and impossible to ignore. The Apple comparison struck a nerve because people immediately thought about what made Apple successful. Steve Jobs was the visionary who defined the company's identity, and many believed the company struggled after he was gone. Because of that, Clark supporters felt the Fever president's comparison suggested that Caitlin Clark was being viewed as only one part of the organization instead of its clear centerpiece. One fan responded on social media by saying that lasting brands are built around the people who define their values. Steve Jobs, the company's visionary and biggest star, was the reason Apple became a global icon. Another fan was even more direct. They wrote that when Clark finally decides she's had enough of the front office's mistakes, the Fever will realize they wasted the greatest opportunity in the history of women's sports. Across replies, comment sections, and message boards, the same opinion kept appearing. Fans believed you don't downplay the most important player this franchise has ever had. You build everything around her. The criticism was far more than random online complaints. Only a few hours after the video exploded online, Kroskoff's entire social media account disappeared. Just days earlier, it had still been active. That decision suggested someone inside the organization understood how serious the situation had become. Instead of offering an explanation or a statement, there was only silence. While the front office faced heavy criticism online, the players who shared the court with Caitlin Clark every night were telling a very different and much more honest story. That's where the situation became even more complicated. One of Clark's closest teammates, Lexi Hull, spoke openly during a feature with Glamour magazine. She revealed something that almost no one wearing a Fever uniform had publicly admitted before. Hull explained that everyone around the league already understood what was happening. Because of the attention we've received and the support we've had since Caitlin arrived, I think there's definitely some jealousy toward the Fever. Hull went even further, revealing that teams across the league had openly talked about things like, "We can't let the Fever beat us." Her comments exposed an issue that had been growing over the past 2 seasons. The Fever are no longer seen as just another basketball team. Every time they step onto the court, opponents focus on one specific player more than the team as a whole. Sophie Cunningham took the conversation even further. After quickly earning a reputation as Clark's protector on the court, she made it clear that any cheap shot at her teammate would come with consequences. She also confirmed what many people around the league had already suspected. Before arriving in Indiana, Cunningham said she had already heard those conversations. While she was still in Phoenix, she claimed there were open discussions in locker rooms about Caitlin Clark. Opposing teams weren't simply trying to win games. They were trying to send a message. Throughout the season, the story of Clark being repeatedly targeted with physical play became impossible to ignore. By the time her groin injury ended her season after only 13 games, even neutral observers were surprised by how much contact she had been forced to absorb. Many people began seriously asking whether the referees had done enough to protect her. An increasing number of people who had been paying close attention believed the answer was no. Yet while all of this was unfolding in public, another story was beginning to emerge behind the scenes about what it was really like to be Caitlin Clark's teammate. And that was only the beginning. It also wasn't what many of her critics expected. One of the most common claims against Caitlin Clark was that she created problems inside the locker room. Some insisted her teammates disliked her and that the attention and popularity surrounding her had caused divisions no team could overcome. In a September 2024 podcast, Cheryl Swoops suggested that key Fever players were quietly unhappy with the situation and were struggling with everything that came with Clark's fame. The comments spread quickly and soon became part of the ongoing conversation as the Fever entered their second season together. But when Clark later appeared as a guest on another March Madness show hosted by Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi, she addressed those claims directly. She wasn't angry. She didn't become defensive. Instead, she responded with remarkable calm. She explained, "You kind of get used to people thinking they know what happens behind closed doors when they really don't." She also made it clear that she continued to receive support from her teammates inside the locker room. During the 2025 playoffs, after returning from her injuries, Clark's teammates rushed onto the court to celebrate with her. They even interrupted her post-game interview. Without anyone expecting it, her teammates rushed over to celebrate with her. After the Fever won the Commissioner's Cup, the joy inside the locker room was unmistakable. The smiles, the laughter, and the way the players celebrated together didn't feel staged. It was genuine. That's the part of the story the media has never fully put together. The real question was never whether Caitlin Clark's teammates liked her. The bigger issue was whether the front office, the group responsible for leading the organization, was willing to surround her with the right pieces and fully commit to building around her. That explains the difference. The relationships inside the locker room were real. Clark and Aaliyah Boston shared a strong friendship. Lexi Hull became one of her closest teammates. Even before they had played a single game together, Sophie Cunningham and several of the new additions openly praised Clark. Rookie Michaela Timpson, who earned a spot on the final roster, showed a level of respect for Clark that was impossible to miss. After the expansion draft, Clark also shared heartfelt messages for two of her former teammates on Instagram. To Christy Wallace, she wrote, "Cub, I love you," and to Chloe Bibby, "My Aussie for life." The affection was genuine. But at the center of it all was one unavoidable truth: real friendships alone are not enough to win championships. Beyond the now famous Apple comparison, Kelly Krauskopf also said something during her October 2024 press conference that many people overlooked while focusing on the controversy. She explained that her goal was to build the Fever into a lasting brand with a long-term future. When Indiana won its only championship in 2012, Caitlin Clark was just 10 years old. As Krauskopf put it, "Sometimes it takes a generation to go to the next level."